Okay. Now, so Hadoop for Java professionals, again, Hadoop is red hot right now. You talk about it, I mean, you don't probably, I would say, kind of, you don't really need much of the proof. You can just go to any of the websites or those job websites and all. You just type about it, you'll come to know what exactly are the kind of openings or what exactly are the companies for which these openings are, right? So it is red hot because it allows you to do the distributed processing on those large data sets across the clusters of commodity computers. Okay, so typically it's all about, you don't spend the money on large machines and clusters and all about it. It is all about get some sort of commodity hardware or the cheaper hardware and then create the clusters on the top of it and go for the scale out kind of a model. So of course it goes for the reduction, where basically companies get huge cost reduction in terms of the data crunching which they have to do. It has almost become a de facto standard. I think I have already talked about it. And nevertheless, it is much cheaper as compared to your traditional tools. So you typically talk about IBM mainframe and Oracle databases and all, licensing cost plus AMC cost and all. It costs a bomb to companies. And I am personally aware of 3 very, very big organizations, okay, really big organizations, which were scared to, or rather than scared, I would say, they were trying to limit their analytics operations just because they had to pay a lot to SAS. They had to pay a lot to Oracle in order to do some sort of X amount of processing. That's where they have started moving towards, from mainframes, or when it comes to mainframe, they need additional MIPS. Additional MIPS means additional money, right? So it's all about, so these are some of the practical limitations altogether. So Hadoop definitely is much cheaper because licensing costs and all other things are involved only if you go for support. But if you do not go for support and all, most of these things are free. That is first thing. It is open source. So if you have a good team of professionals, you are allowed to, you can just change the source code accordingly. So I am aware of a retail giant in US. There I've been the part of that team wherein we have taken Hadoop and we have changed some of its properties according to our own requirement. Okay, so that's kind of parallel distribution of Hadoop which companies are running nowadays, and using the same thing, like talk about IBM, talk about Oracle. They know that this is a change which has triggered a massive paradigm shift within the industry. So they themselves are coming up with their own Hadoop distributions. Oracle is coming up with its own Hadoop connectors and all that stuff. So yes, there is a big change which is happening across the industry right now. Okay, so that is one of the reasons why it has become kind of red hot technology. Now coming to the point wherein so Hadoop is definitely a natural career progressions for those Java professionals because entire Hadoop is written in Java. Entire Hadoop source code is nothing but core Java, guys. Okay. The combination of your Hadoop and Java skills, as you can just see that it is one of the most on-demand kind of skills which are there in the market, and the Java skills in Hadoop don't really limit you to the understanding of Hadoop. So when I say Hadoop, it means it is completely written in Java. Very good. You know the framework, but at the same time, it allows you to do MapReduce programming using Java. Of course, you need to know MapReduce paradigm, but if you are aware of it, using Java, you can do the MapReduce programming. Apart from this, there are some wrappers which are built on the top of it. Even you have to extend the wrappers. You can, so like Pig and Hive, there is something called UDF, basically user-defined functions and all. If you have to apply them or kind of create your own custom storages, loaders, etc., you can. As of now, the support is only for Java. Okay, and HBase, right? I think these three things I talked about it at the very start itself. So HBase is primarily, Java client driven. Okay, so most of the interactions with HBase, they don't really happen through the shells. Just like you have SQL prompt and all, there is an HBase prompt also, but typically people don't do that interaction via, I would say, the prompts, or probably via some scripts, as you see .sql kind of thing. No, they don't happen that way. They typically happen with your Java programs and all. So Java is an important tool even to interact with your Hadoop ecosystem itself. Let's look at some of the Hadoop job trends. So it's about your job trend and all. If you can see that up to 2000, even 2010 start, there was a flat, this thing, almost zero traction, within industry. So when I started, adopting Hadoop, at that point of time, the only documentation which was available, today if you type Hadoop, you will get a lot of material, okay? But at that point of time, it essentially the material which was available was just the Java docs kind of thing, and there was absolutely nothing. But yes, nevertheless, there were some niche companies which were specifically, let's say, either at the Facebook level, Google level, and all that stuff, or the companies somehow associated with them were using Hadoop. Not many. Even in fact, many people didn't even know what exactly is Hadoop and all. But over the period of time, from early 2010 onwards, we are seeing a industry spread adoption of Hadoop. So there were various other reasons. I mean, this is not really the right platform to go into those reasons, but for various reasons, even if the big organizations, or rather than big organizations, most of the common organizations like TCS, Satyam, Infosys, Wipro, and all, you talk about them, they even if they were aware, none of those organizations had the big data practices among them. But from 2010 onwards, it's an industry-wide kind of observation that most of the companies have started their big data practices. And when you talk about big data nowadays, at least I can see definitely for coming some more years, Hadoop is going to be synonymous of big data. Though big data is much more wider thing, as you can see that it is all about volume, variety, and velocity of data. So Hadoop is one way to tackle this much huge amount of information in such a small time. But the idea is Hadoop is right now kind of de facto standard. So from 2010 onwards, you can see it's kind of exponential kind of a growth which is happening, and primarily due to the reason that specifically companies in India and across the world are now waking up and then seeing that big companies like Google, Facebook, talk about Yahoo and all, they have successfully implemented and have taken their businesses to the next level. So people are now realizing it. Of course, this trend is growing up. Whereas you talk about the Java job trend and all, so this is kind of constant, because so Java also at some point of time must have, I mean, it has already seen that kind of exponential rise at one point of time, but right now it is kind of, more or less kind of a constant kind of a market, wherein that there is enough good demand and supply kind of a thing. So there is a good demand for Java professionals, at the same time there is a good supply for the Java professionals and all, right? So these are two distinct things. But what happens is, what is more interesting is, if you look at the next slide. Just a sec. Right? So now, when it comes to job trends of Hadoop and Java combination, you can see that Hadoop itself has started becoming quite popular in early 2010s, right? But the Hadoop and Java job trend has kind of almost picked up over 2011 mid, or even starting itself, I think. So 2011 mid onwards, there is a kind of quite unexpected kind of an upsurge in the in the demand for the skill set of Hadoop and Java combinations. There are reasons for it. there are specific reasons for it. Those are the things which I'm going to cover in the coming slides, okay, wherein I'll be talking about, I mean, why exactly Java is the main reason, or why exactly this combination has become so lucrative right now, okay. So as you can see that if you move towards it, only, I'm talking about all those guys who are completely from, core Java guys and all, who have spent all of their lives in, doing Java programming and all. But now what? Now what next? So this exactly is the place which, can take you to the next level of growth, or I would say, as people say, that career phase 1.0, career phase 2.0. So this is kind of, that migration which we are talking about, okay, which can really help you. But of course, for that, a good understanding of Hadoop concepts are required, along with the application of Java. So this is something which is important. Now, I'll just take it to the next slide. So even before we go to Hadoop and all, it's all about the kind of job openings which you will see typically in your Hadoop world. So typically, if you talk about it, as you can see here, it is Hadoop developer. You talk about Hadoop developer, Hadoop engineers, big data engineer. They are all kind of same job profiles. These three, even though the names are different, as of today, guys, as of today, they are nearly the same kind of profiles, because nowadays, which are the starting days, I would say there is no clear-cut distinction between the administrators versus developers. So typically, I mean, I have been the part of 3 organizations wherein we have started Hadoop practices from scratch. And at that point of time, let me tell, it is all about you have to set up the cluster and all that stuff and do the programming as well. But however, very soon companies are now realizing, and they are going to have their, most of the companies have started their admin separately, their development separately. So Hadoop engineers typically would go towards that admin side of it. Hadoop developers, right? Hadoop developers and big data engineers and all will typically go towards a developer kind of a community. But big data engineer is a bit broader term rather than Hadoop engineer, though for now and at least in coming some years, I do see both of them as kind of interchangeable thing. Then there are demands for Hadoop architects. So I mean, I'm in this market from quite long, and I do see that, there are so many Java architects who just many times they claim to be a Hadoop architect, but apart from Java knowledge, it requires a lot more when it comes to Hadoop. So it essentially needs some sort of admin knowledge. It needs the knowledge of Hadoop intrinsics, how exactly it works. So it's all about, planning your entire clusters, planning your data growth patterns, planning exactly about, you're setting up your ACLs and all that stuff. So basically, Hadoop architects, it's one of the, I would say they are the rarest. It is the most difficult hiring decision, or this is the most difficult hiring position for almost every company nowadays. Then there are other segment of jobs which typically goes towards the data scientist and data analyst kind of, this is another role wherein you talk about data scientists and data analysts and all. So data scientists, again, there have been a lot of data analysts in past. I mean, typically people who are from SAS background, typically people who are from R background and all. It is very easy for them to make a transition towards it. But again, in order, as I have told, data scientist is not really kind of a job position. It's kind of a role which you play. So typically these guys will be having their, let's say, designations as probably sort of data analyst or senior data analyst or something like that, but the role would be of data scientist. So typically these guys are the ones who are good with hacking skills and all that stuff. So it might sound a bit flashy, but it is all about, you should understand your data very well. You should have some sort of good domain knowledge. At the same time, Java comes handy there because you will be using Hadoop and all, and plus many more. So that plus many more things typically involve good knowledge of Mahout, good knowledge of R, good knowledge of some sort of other machine learning mechanisms altogether, some sort of other databases like MongoDB, Cassandra, etc. So this entire combination typically goes towards the data science kind of a territory. But yes, having said that, Hadoop opens all of these, Hadoop is the integral part of any of these job profiles, and it opens up all of these possibilities to you. That was the overall purpose of the slide.